Hey everyone, Nubkeks here, and in today's video we're looking at the Outlaw Rogue on the Shadowlands beta for World of Warcraft. We've already looked at Assassination, we'll be looking at Subtlety tomorrow, and yeah, that will bring an end to our initial deep dives into the specs here on the beta. We've looked at every single spec, or well, we will have after tomorrow, I guess. But yeah, stay tuned, there'll be loads more content coming on the channel. Of course, we still have to do the rankings for all of the different roles in the games, ranking all the specs. So yeah, fun stuff to go. But without any further ado, let's dive in. Let's look at the Outlaw Rogue. Alright guys, and here we are in game. As always, we're going to begin the video by doing a quick recap of the basic rotation, the core gameplay of the Outlaw Rogue. If you want to just jump to the What's New section, all the timestamps are in the description or in the timeline here. You can go to look at the new abilities, new talents, Covenant abilities, Legendaries, Conduits, anything you want. It's there for you to find in the video. Let's talk about the core gameplay, though, of the Outlaw Rogue. What's it all about? Well, like all the Rogue specs, you have your energy and you've got your combo points, and generally speaking, you're going to be spending your energy on combo point generators, build up your combo points, and then spend them on your finishers. Right, let's look at the generators first, right? Because they're probably the thing you're going to be pressing most often. The first one is Sinister Strike. This costs 45 energy. You're going to viciously strike the enemy for 500 physical damage, and it has a 45% chance to hit an additional time and make your next pistol shot cost half as much and do double damage, and it gives you 1 combo point each time it strikes. So let's see if we can fire it off a few times here. There we go, we got the double strike, we got 2 combo points, and we get this proc, and we can spend this proc with Pistol Shot. Pistol Shot is your other main combo point generator. This costs 40 energy. It's going to give you 1 combo point. You draw a concealed pistol and fire a quick shot at the enemy, doing about 450 physical damage, reducing movement speed by 30% for 6 seconds. This does have a 20-yard range, so you can use this when you're out of range and PvP. You know, the minor slow, good for getting in on top of your target, catching up to them. But generally speaking, what you're going to be doing is you're going to spam Sinister Strike. It's the most efficient way to generate your combo points, and then consume your proc there. I think it's called Opportunity or Opportunism or something on Pistol Shot. And that's how you're mostly going to generate all of your combo points. You're going to be spending your combo points on a few different things. New baseline or returning thing for Outlaw Rogue, going back to your Combat Rogue days, is Slice and Dice is your first finisher you need to know about. This is now baseline in Shadowlands, so this costs 25 energy. You can spend up to 5 combo points. It will give you a buff that lasts for up to 36 seconds. It gives 50% attack speed. So a lot more attack speed, lots more just passive damage. You want to maintain this at all times. Then your next finisher, which is very, very important, is Between the Eyes. This also costs 25 energy. Has a 45-second cooldown. Actually, one thing to note is that a lot of your cooldowns seem longer than they actually are because you do have a passive that reduces them all. We'll come to that in a minute, though. But Between the Eyes, you're going to shoot the target with your pistol. If you use 5 combo points, it does up to 1,000 damage. We'll put a debuff on the target that lasts for 15 seconds. That increases your critical strike damage against the target by 20%. And also, bonus here is that Between the Eyes itself, if you critically strike with Between the Eyes, it does 4 times normal damage. So a crit with this ability will do an absolute ton of damage. But it's all about keeping that debuff on the target. You want to use this on cooldown. Then if that is on cooldown and Slice and Dice is already up and you don't need to refresh the buff, you're going to be spamming out the Dispatches. This is your combo point finisher that you're going to press most often. 35 energy this time, 1 to 5 combo points. This will do up to 2,000 physical damage with 5 combo points. So yeah, that's the big chunk of your gameplay right there. I just want to touch on this passive I mentioned very, very quickly, which is the Restless Blades. So this is going to reduce the cooldown on most of your major cooldowns, most things, by 1 second every time you spend a combo point. So if you do a 5 combo point finisher, it's going to knock 5-second cooldown off of most of these things. So for example, Between the Eyes, it will knock 5-second cooldown off of that. So that's something to bear in mind. That's very important. That's why a lot of these cooldowns will seem very long, but actually are quite short. You also have, you're going to get some energy with your offhand attacks, which is cool. And then your Mastery is a chance to attack with your offhand for some damage, which can also then trigger some more energy, combat potency, main gauche here. And you also get combo points back. Chance if you do 5 combo point finisher, you're going to get a guaranteed combo point back, that sort of thing. So some passive things going on there. There is another major aspect of the Outlaw Rogue which you must know about, which is Roll the Bones. Roll the Bones. This now has a 45-second cooldown, again reduced by the Restless Blades. It's going to give you a 30-second buff And there's a number of different buffs you can get. Let me see if I can get them all. There are 6 different buffs. So in this case, we got Broadside, which is possibly the best one. It's a very good one. I think it's the second best one. This is going to make your combo point generating abilities generate 1 additional combo point and do 20% more damage. So this is quite fun. This is one of the most noticeable ones. So like if I get right there, if I get a double hit with my Sinister Strike, it's going to like fill up my combo point bar instantly. So that one is super fun. You can get one called Buried Treasure, which is going to give you 4 energy per second. That's pretty weak. Grand Melee, which used to give you attack speed, has been reworked, obviously, because of Slice and Dice. So you've got Grand Melee, which will increase the duration of your Slice and Dice and give you 15% leech. Ruthless Precision, I think, is the best one. This increases the crit chance of Between the Eyes by 60% and all of your other abilities by 20%. So, number 1, it's going to get you that quadruple damage on Between the Eyes a lot more frequently, and it's going to give you the crit strike bonus to make more out of the crit strike damage bonus you get from Between the Eyes. So that one, I think, is probably going to be your best one. There's one called Skull and Crossbones, which gives you an additional, gives Sinister Strike a 30% chance to strike an additional time for even more combo points off of that one. And then you have True Bearing, where finishers will reduce the remaining cooldown of your abilities by 1 second per combo point in addition to your Restless Blade. So essentially it doubles the value of your Restless Blade's cooldown reduction, which is quite fun actually. But yeah, that's Roll the Bones. So it's random. Here we go, Ruthless Precision. So that's a pretty good one, obviously, for us to get. It's going to do a lot of flat damage. So cool. If you want to AoE, you just press this button. Hey, easy as that. Blade Flurry, 15 energy, instant cast, has the 30-second cooldown, but of course that does get reduced by 1 second for every combo point you spend. You'll hit up to 5 nearby targets for a bit of damage, and it will make your single target attacks also strike up to 4 nearby enemies for 40% of normal damage for 12 seconds. So this is how you do AoE. You want to AoE, press Blade Flurry, does an AoE nuke to start things off, and then your attacks are automatically going to AoE, which extends from you, the rogue, I do believe. And yeah, I think that's most of it. Right, your main cooldown then is Adrenaline Rush. This is a 3-minute cooldown. Again, it gets reduced a lot. It increases your energy regen by 60%, your max energy by 50%, and your attack speed by 20% for 20 seconds. It just makes you a lot faster, a lot spammier. And that's basically it. That's most of the Outlaw Rogue. In Stealth, you do have Ambush, which is going to do 1,000 physical damage and give you 2 combo points. So you'll do something along the lines of like, come in, ambush. I'm going to do... okay, that actually worked out okay. I'm going to roll the bones. I put up my Slice and Dice. Here we go. I'm going to pop my Adrenaline Rush, and we're going to start spending. I already messed up because I forgot to do my Between the Eyes. There we go, Between the Eyes. Okay, so we got Skull and Crossbones up. That's nice. Cool, cool, cool. And we're just going to be spamming out our dispatches now. Ignore this red thing. That's a legendary I forgot to take off. I believe now in single target you actually do want to use Blade Flurry in single target in Shadowlands, which is an interesting change. We're going to re-roll our buff there. We need to get Slice and Dice back on. We got Grand Melee this time. We're going to get loads and loads of Slice and Dice uptime, which is maybe not good. We'll have to see. We'll do a Blade Flurry for some single target damage. We put the Between the Eyes on the target. And yeah, there you go. Just quick, spammy, and that's really what we're doing here. All right, cool. There you go. That should give you a very brief idea. So it's very, very simple spec, but it's very fast, very spammy. You obviously have a bunch of utility things as well. And some of the stuff here is talents, which is why I'm not covering it. And some of it is also new. We're going to cover it next in the What's New section. I just covered the essential new things. Like, obviously, I couldn't not cover Slice and Dice or Between the Eyes covers. We'll have to do those twice. You have Gouge, which is a 15-second cooldown. This gives you 1 combo point. And it's a 4-second in cap. You have to be in front of your target. So this is essentially like another interrupt. It's a wonderful utility to have as an Outlaw Rogue. Very, very useful in Mythic Plus. Great in PvP as well to interrupt ability. So that's cool. You obviously have a kick. 15-second cooldown kick. I think I already mentioned kidney shots. Combo point spenders up to a 6-second stun on a 20-second cooldown. You have blind, 2-minute cooldown, which is going to disorient a target for up to 1 minute with 15-yard range. I think it's 8 seconds in PvP. Sap is incapacitate for 1 minute from stealth. Very good. You can vanish on a 2-minute cooldown, puts you instantly into stealth. Gives you access to your stealth abilities like Cheap Shot, which is a 4-second stun from stealth, or ambush for a little bit of burst damage. Or of course the Sap ability. Very cool. Grappling Hook, this is your movement thing. Other rogues have Shadow Step. You have Grappling Hook. Point and click on the ground. Boom, zip over. Very cool. Sprint, 1-minute cooldown. 70% move speed for 8 seconds. Shiv is new. I won't cover that right now. Feint is a 15-second cooldown. It's going to reduce damage from area of effect attacks by 40% for 5 seconds. So a bit of a nice defensive niche in terms of its uses, but can be very good. Crimson Vial is nerfed from BFA, but that's going to give you 20% max health over 4 seconds. Evasion, replacing Riposte as your main defensive, is going to give you 100% dodge for 10 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. Cloak of Shadows on a 2-minute cooldown gives you magic immunity and makes you resist all harmful, removes all harmful spell effects and causes you to resist all harmful spells for 5 seconds. So it's an immunity, though it doesn't always work perfectly. It depends. Some spells are flagged to not be resisted by Cloak of Shadows in raids because it was a bit too OP. So that's just something you'll have to check as an outlaw. As just a rogue in general is, okay, what abilities in dungeons and in raids can I actually dodge with evasion? What can I dodge with Cloak of Shadows? And which ones will it not work on? Because it can be a little bit confusing. And then you also have Tricks of the Trade, which is going to redirect threat. I'm going to cover Shiv and poisons and stuff like that. And you can also pick locks, which is actually kind of useful sometimes. To open lock doors and stuff in dungeons, kind of cool. Or open lock boxes. I'll cover like Shiv and poison, some of this other new stuff in the What's New section, which I think we're ready to dive into next. So I think that's basically, yeah, that's the core of the Outlaw Rogue. Cool, let's go. What is new then for the Outlaw Rogue in the Shadowlands? And well, it actually turns out there's quite a lot of stuff that's new for Outlaw, though most of it is fairly minor. But, well, I'll tell you what, let's dive into it and you guys can be the judge. The first change that you're going to very much notice, of course, is Roll the Bones. Roll the Bones is no longer a combo point spending move. This is now just working off of a cooldown. It has a 45-second cooldown. Of course, that gets reduced by Restless Blades. It's going to give you a 30-second buff. You should have, typically speaking, Roll the Bones will be back off cooldown before that buff expires. So you can kind of decide, okay, I don't like the Roll the Bones buff I got. I'm going to re-roll it. Or, oh, I do like the buff I got. I got all 5 buffs. So I'm going to just, I'm going to keep it going and I'll reroll later. It does say it costs 50 energy. However, it doesn't. I think it costs 35. Or is it 20? No, it costs 35. I'm pretty sure it only costs 35. So it doesn't actually cost 50 energy. But there you are. They also slightly reworked some of the Roll the Bones buffs. Slightly. Grand Melee is the one, actually. No longer gives you attack speed, Grand Melee. It's going to increase the duration of Slice and Dice. We'll come to it in a second. And it now gives you 15% leech. So Grand Melee got nerfed an awful lot. So, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully they might go back and do a little bit of an update, sweep through these buffs and tweak them up a little bit. But that's how Roll the Bones works now. In my opinion, this is a big improvement. I mean, I still don't like the ability all that much, but it's a very big improvement. I think it felt very, very bad when the Theory Crafter sat down and said, hey guys, you know what? The buffs are so imbalanced here that actually, if you roll the bones with combo points like you did in BFA, and if you got a bad buff, you would obviously still use Between the Eyes on cooldown, but instead of doing Dispatch, you could just re-roll the bone, like re-roll your bones over and over and over again, and just miss out on loads of dispatches, and it could still be a damage increase to get the chances for better buffs. It was kind of bizarre, so I'm kind of glad that they changed it to a cooldown, and you just have to sort of live with whatever buff that you get. Let's look at Slice and Dice then. So Slice and Dice is now baseline for all rogue specs. So this is your maintenance buff now that Roll the Bones is not something you can spam. So 25 energy, 1 to 5 combo points, going to give you 50% attack speed, and that lasts for up to 36 seconds. So yeah, I think it's quite nice. It's kind of fun to be swinging your swords really fast. Yeah, it's a much better gameplay loop than spamming Roll the Bones. You're just going to put on Slice and Dice, activate your Roll the Bones, and then you're into your damage rotation, as it were. You're just going to do Between the Eyes on cooldown, then you can spam your Dispatch, and that's a lot more fun. So I think that's pretty nice. Between the Eyes has been slightly reworked. The first thing is that you've got Kidney Shot back. Kidney Shot is now your single target stun with combo points, so 20-second cooldown, up to 5 combo points. That's a 6-second stun, so same for all the rogue specs. And they removed the stun from Between the Eyes. Between the Eyes now works as it puts a debuff on the target. That debuff lasts for up to 15 seconds at 5 combo points. That will increase your critical strike damage against the target by 20%. And crit strikes with Between the Eyes will still do 4 times normal damage. I mean, very simple. You're going to be using Between the Eyes basically on cooldown. I mean, the only thing to consider that's a little bit different here, majorly different, is number one, you're going to get less sort of random stuns out in Mythic Plus, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. There's 2 sides to it. You're going to get less stuns out for the same amount of combo points. You have to intentionally spend them on Kidney Shot, which doesn't do damage. But at the same time, you're not going to start triggering diminishing returns on stuns on targets that you might not want to. That's part of your damage rotation. So I think that's probably a good change overall. It also is going to make you slightly worse at target swapping, because obviously this puts a 15-second debuff on the target, which means you quite want to hit that target for 15 seconds, right? You don't necessarily want to switch off. So that's just something to consider right there. Blade Flurry has also seen a bit of a rework. So this now has just no charges. It's just a straight up 30-second cooldown for 15 energy. It does have a rank 2. We'll come back to that in a second, but it does make you do instant damage, which is kind of fun. An instant 1,400 damage, which is, you know, it's like a 4-point dispatch on 5 targets in AoE, which is cool when you instantly press the button. And this now makes your single target attacks strike up to 4 nearby enemies for 40% of normal damage for 12 seconds. So again, like it's a lot simpler to use it now in the sense that there are no 2 charges. You're just, when you are in AoE, you press Blade Flurry and you do AoE, and that's it really. Ambush is back. I think this was gone. I can't remember. Anyway, it's back. In case it was gone, it's back. So whatever, 1,100 physical damage from stealth and 2 combo points for 50 energy. Can't remember if that was gone or not. So I'll just point it out in case it wasn't. Shiv has returned in a slightly reworked version that's going to tie into your poisons. In fact, I should cover the poisons first. So you have poisons. Let's do poisons first. Instant poison. Each strike with your weapons has a 30% chance of instantly doing 74 nature damage. So a bit of extra damage whenever you attack. Kind of nice. Or alternatively, your 2 lethal poison options. Instant or wound. Wound poison has a 30% chance to poison the enemy, doing 25 nature damage and reducing the healing they receive by 8% for 12 seconds. That stacks up to 3 times. So we saw with Assassination Rogue, they could stack this up to 5 times. You can only stack it up to 3 for a maximum of 24% reduced healing. So, I mean, broadly speaking, wound poison is what you're going to use in PvP. Instant poison is what you're going to use in PvE. So that's kind of, it's a little sort of neat rogue flavor thing, which is cool. Obviously bringing healing reduction is really, really nice for some PvP action. Then you have 2 non-lethal poisons. You can have 1 lethal and 1 non-lethal on the same time. Numbing poison. Each strike has a 50% chance of poisoning the enemy, clouding their mind, slowing their attack and casting speed by 15% for 10 seconds. This is fantastic. Really nice utility to be bringing as the rogue, like in Mythic Plus. Fantastic, you know, 15% slower attack speed. That's reducing a lot of those melee hits on your tank. That's wonderful. 50% slower casting speed makes it easier to kick mobs, easier to control mobs, especially mobs that you can't interrupt. So I think this one is looking very strong indeed, and has some nice utility in PvP. Though in PvP, you're probably more likely to go for crippling poison, where each strike has a 30% chance to poison the enemy, slowing their movement speed by 50% for 12 seconds. So an extra slow built in there. I don't remember if you had other ways of doing a slow as the Outlaw Rogue. I can't remember. Obviously, Pistol Shot should still do a 30% slow as well. But yeah, anyway, they're your poisons. So again, 1 lethal, 1 non-lethal. Shiv then, I mentioned this. But Shiv gives you 1 combo point, costs 20 energy. It's a 25-second cooldown. It does a tiny bit of damage, like 100 physical damage, almost nothing. More importantly, though, it does a concentrated form of your non-lethal poison. In this case, Numbing Poison is going to dispel all enrage effects. And Crippling Poison does, I think, a 70% slow. Yeah, 70% slow for 5 seconds. So the slow is obviously wonderful for PvP to really lock somebody down that's trying to escape. That's quite nice. And then Dispelling Enrages. I guess maybe that probably works against Fury Warriors. I don't know, but this is more so for, again, for PvE, for Mythic Plus. An extra soothe. It's on a pretty long cooldown here compared to like a resto druid or a druid or whatever, but it's still nice to bring a soothe. That's wonderful utility again for Mythic Plus. So there you go. Shiv is in. And then of course Riposte has been replaced by Evasion. I think we were expecting them to maybe bring Riposte back in maybe the tier 35 row or something, but I don't even think it's a PvP talent. It doesn't appear to be. So yeah, Riposte is just gone right now, which was giving you, was 100% parry chance or whatever. Now you have Evasion, which is 100% dodge chance for 10 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. So just Evasion is the basic cooldown for all the basic defensive cooldown for all rogue specs now. No Riposte. I suspect they might bring it back in a talent or something. They might do an update on Outlaw Rogue, so stay tuned on the channel for that in case they do, because yeah, it's possible they might update these things again on the beta here. Restless Blades now affects more things as well. It's going to reduce the cooldown of Adrenaline Rush, Between the Eyes, Blade Flurry, Grappling Hook, Roll the Bones, Sprint, and Vanish, and then also obviously talents that have cooldowns as well. So they've just extended the Restless Blades effect to affect more things. In particular, of course, Roll the Bones is probably the most noticeable thing right there. I'm not sure if I mentioned, but Cheap Shot only gives 1 combo point now. That's down from 2 combo points. So just kind of nerfing that a slight bit. And Crimson Vial did get nerfed. This now costs 20 energy, will give you 20% maximum health over 4 seconds on a 30-second cooldown still. I believe in BFA it was 30 energy for 30% max health over 6 seconds. When they were talking about this, their intent was that there was supposed to be a new pickpocketing minigame in Shadowlands where you could pickpocket mobs and they'd have like cool rogue reagents on them that you could mix in with your Crimson Vial to get interesting bonus effects. That's not implemented yet. They haven't been able to do that. So, I mean, the question is, what are they going to do then? Are they still working on that? Is it still going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Crimson Vial will remain nerfed? Or is it not going to happen and they'll rebuff Crimson Vial back to what it used to be? I really don't know. The cynical part of me suspects that they might just leave Crimson Vial in the nerf state that it is, and they won't get around to pickpocketing, but we'll see. Who knows? And yeah, okay, cool. As you're leveling then as well in the Shadowlands, you're going to get some leveling perks at level 52, 54, 56, and 58. Level 52, that's when you get Blade Flurry rank 2, which is your Blade Flurry is going to hit for that instant roughly 4 CP, slightly under, like 3.5 CP dispatch on 5 nearby enemies. So that's quite fun. Makes the Blade Flurry do something when you press the button. That's a lot of fun. Interestingly enough, I believe it does make it worthwhile pressing in single target, even for just a bit of extra damage, which I actually quite like. I think that's quite fun because, in my opinion at least, the Outlaw Rogue rotation is quite spammy and quite simple, so it's kind of nice to mix in a little extra single target thing. We'll see how that actually goes with tuning. The theory crafters will work it out exactly and figure out, is it worth pressing, but I believe that it might be. So something just to bear in mind. You get Numbing Poison at level 54. Grappling Hook rank 2 actually at level 56, which is a 45-second cooldown on Grappling Hook baseline. So that's really nice. Yeah, nothing to complain about there, down from the 60 seconds. That's wonderful. And then you get Evasion rank 2 at level 58, which is quite fun. It's just going to make whenever you dodge an attack with Evasion, it will trigger your Mastery main gauche. So you'll just get this automatic offhand attack, which is really nice, right? So yeah, whenever you dodge, you're going to do a bit more damage. That's quite fun for PvP or for solo content, that sort of thing. Yeah, I believe they're all the baseline changes for the Outlaw Rogue. Let's check out the talents. So your talent tree, not a lot of changes here at all. Not a lot of changes. I think as far as I'm aware, there are only 2 changes. The first one is Retractable Hook. Now reduces the cooldown of Grappling Hook by 15 seconds and increases its retraction speed. So if we see that, we just did a Grappling Hook a few seconds ago. So let's see right now. Much faster on that retractable hook, so that's quite lovely. Of course, you are competing with hit and run, 50% move speed, which is also nice, though this might be a bit better. But the big one is you're competing with acrobatic strikes, which makes it very, very easy. That extra 3 yards on all of your attacks lets you AoE much more easily with Blade Flurry, makes the Blade Flurry AoE much bigger. And yeah, it's one of the big perks to playing the Outlaw Rogue is that you've longer range than any other melee, so you can keep doing damage while dodging like nasty ground effects and dangerous spells and stuff like that. So yeah, it's kind of tough going up against acrobatic strikes, but I think it's pretty neat. And then this one is maybe more exciting. Seeing as Slice and Dice is now a baseline spell with the reworked Roll the Bones, the Dread Blades have come back. This was your Legion artifact ability, your Legion weapon ability. This is now back as a talent. 1.5 minute cooldown, 30 energy. You strike an enemy, doing about 1,000 physical damage, and empowering your weapons for 10 seconds, making essentially, well, not all of your, actually, it doesn't affect Gouge or Shiv, but your Sinister Strike, Ambush, and Pistol Shot will fill your combo points, but your finishing moves consume 5% of your health. It is still a little awkward in the sense that, well, if I roll the bones, okay, I got grand melee here, that's fine. But if you get something like if you get broadsides, this really doesn't synergize well with broadsides at all, or with what, Skull and Crossbones. So there's a few things that this doesn't synergize all that well with, but it's still very cool. So if, for example, I mean, let's just go in here. Let's just smack this guy a few times. Let's get our slice and dice up. Let's pop Adrenaline Rush, and let's go Dreadblades. So now we're just going to be absolutely spamming out attacks. It's really cool. So I put, obviously, my debuff on him, and we're just going to be blasting out abilities, having a great time. We should roll the bones as well. And there you go. That was our little combo there. So a bit of burst damage. I think it's fun. You'll obviously notice this legendary. We'll come back to this in a second. You guys that played Rogue back in like Warlords of Draenor or older expansions might be recognizing that. But yeah, like the health loss isn't that big of a deal here. I think the fun thing is that it's just a bit sort of a bigger burst cooldown compared to Alacrity, which is just constant haste. I don't know how the tuning is working out. But yeah, I think it's just the option to have, you know, the consistent damage of Alacrity versus a bigger burst cooldown, and it's quite fun. Actually, it's quite fun to fill up your combo points and just to be blasting out your finishers really, really quickly during that window. The question is just how much do you have in the Outlaw Rogue toolkit that you can actually sync up with this. But yeah, I think it's neat. So there you are. For your Covenant abilities, then, as the Outlaw Rogue, we're going to start with a Kyrian. The Kyrian Covenant signature is called Summon Steward. You get this little owl bro who's going to come over, give you a File of Serenity. And yeah, it's an extra consumable. Restores 20% of your health. Removes all diseases, poisons, curses, and bleeds affecting you. That has a 3-minute cooldown. It's just an extra consumable on top of everything else you can have in the Shadowlands. So that's pretty fantastic. Obviously a bit of a bummer for you as the rogue, knowing that other classes, obviously this is the signature thing. Everyone in the Kyrian Covenant can have this. So in PvP, people are going to be able to remove like your poisons. It doesn't affect you half as badly as it affects the Assassination Rogue, though. Like those guys have a bit of a rough time. Then your Covenant ability for the rogues is called Echoing Reprimand. This costs 30 energy, has a 45-second cooldown. It's going to give you 3 combo points. It will do 700 arcane damage to an enemy, and it will anima charge a combo point. If I fire this ability off right now, you'll get to see what I mean. So right here, combo point number 4 has been anima charged. What that means is when I do an ability, a finishing move that consumes that specific number of combo points, so if I did a pistol shot and then I did a dispatch, it's going to do damage as if it consumed 7 combo points, right? So I guess it's not going to quite display it properly in the sense that I just did a dispatch for 2,000 damage. That's equal to a 7 combo point. The reason that it looks like it's 5 is that this is reduced by armor. So for example, if I fire off just a normal dispatch here, we'll just go right there. You can see a normal dispatch, 5 combo point. It's doing 1,400 damage, reduced by armor. Whereas the 7 point was doing did by 2,000. That's kind of fun. One of the downsides, couple of downsides to this. Number 1, it does damage as if the thing consumes 7 combo points. It doesn't do the effect as if they consume 7 combo points. So, couple of issues. Number 1, obviously it won't work with Slice and Dice. It won't work with Kidney Shot. And it works perfectly with Dispatch. It's great for that. However, unfortunately, with Between the Eyes, it will do the damage of Between the Eyes. So you can get a big 7 combo point Between the Eyes. And if you have that, will I get it? Nope. if you have the frickin' shark fin buff that gives you more crit chance on your Between the Eyes, you quite want to use it on that. It will do the bonus. It will do the bonus damage, and you get a massive crit. But it won't actually apply the. It won't give a longer debuff. It won't give a longer Between the Eyes debuff. So I don't actually know if it'd be worth using on Between the Eyes. So that's unfortunate. I hope they go back and just tweak it and just make it up, just do a 7 combo point. I think that'll be fine. I really don't think anyone would particularly mind getting a big Slice and Dice. Okay, maybe the big Kidney Shot, they could maybe not have it do that. That one's fair enough, right? But okay, a bigger Slice and Dice or give a longer debuff Between the Eyes, that would probably be okay. It wouldn't ruin the game for anyone. But yeah, so that's just something to consider. Obviously, of course, it's going to animature. Okay, we got the 4th one twice in a row there, but it will do either the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th combo point will be anima charged. It won't do the 1st one. It won't do the 5th one. One certainly issue is that, like for example, right here, it can be awkward to actually hit this. There we go. We got a bit lucky there. It can be a little bit awkward to hit it when you want to. I feel like it's not so bad for Outlaw because you're very spammy. But obviously, like, Saber Slash sometimes generates 1 combo point. Sometimes it generates 2. I mean, I've got this Talent Weapon Master where sometimes it could generate 3 combo points. It's a little bit random, so actually landing on the correct number of combo points can be a little bit tricky. This is much worse for Assassination Rogue. It's not so bad for Outlaw Rogue because you are very spammy. Like, you're probably going to get that. You're probably going to get your 7 combo point dispatch into your between the eyes just fine into that window, but it's just something to bear in mind. It can be a little bit awkward. The good news is that you've got loads of time to do it. Like the duration of the anima charge is equal to the Echoing Reprimand cooldown, so you got plenty of time to actually use it. Which is fine. And obviously you can use it on different targets. You don't have to use it on the same target. It's just a buff on you, which is cool. So I think it's decently okay. There's a conduit that buffs this called Reverberation. It's going to increase the initial damage of Echoing Reprimand by 50%. That goes up to 120%. So it'll actually hit pretty hard. Like, it's arcane damage, which means it bypasses armor. So this will actually do a fair chunk of damage once it gets going. So it could be a nice little bit of burst damage on a 45-second cooldown. I think it's pretty okay, actually. Like, if you sync it up with Between the Eyes, if you sync it up with Blade Flurry and cleave the extra anima charge finisher damage around, I think it's going to be pretty nice, actually. So I think it's a decent option for Outlaw Rogue. We'll see how it compares to the other ones, though. Next up, we have the Night Fae. Their signature ability is called Soul Shape. This is a 1.5 minute cooldown. It's going to give you a 12-second buff, turning you into a Vulpin. When you cast the ability, you're going to instantly teleport 15 yards forward. You'll have the 50% move speed as a Vulpin, and this will become this Flicker ability then, a 4-second cooldown that you can reactivate for another 15-yard blink. So it's a whole bunch of mobility. I don't know if you massively need this as the Rogue. You already have quite a lot of mobility, but hey, it is even more mobility if that is something that could be very nice for some fights, an extra blink. I guess that's one thing. Like, the other rogues have Shadow Step, which is literally like a teleport, so they could teleport over death beams and things like that on the floor, whereas you have to grappling hook. I don't believe that counts as an invulnerability, so if you try to grappling hook through a big laser beam, it's just gonna hit you, right? So this blink could be useful for that. It is indefinite in a rest area, as you can see, so that's kind of fun. The Covenant ability for the rogues then is Sepsis. 1.5 minute cooldown. Infect the target's blood, doing 1,500 nature damage over 10 seconds. If the target survives the full duration, they suffer an additional 3,600 damage, and you vanish from sight. The cooldown is reduced by 60 seconds if Sepsis does not last the full duration. So first up, this is a big chunk of damage. This is a large burst of damage. I mean, the 1,500 nature damage over 10 seconds isn't bad by itself. It isn't bad. Like, it's going to do about as much damage against a typical target as a dispatch, a 5 combo point dispatch will do, like factoring in armor. If it actually pops, if it actually goes off, it's going to do like a 5,000 damage total, which is pretty damn good. Like, that's quite a lot of damage, so it's a big chunk of burst on 1.5 minute CD. And obviously gives you a free Vanish. This is not as useful for you as it is for Assassination Rogue, but still a free Vanish is still quite interesting for PvP. You get an extra sap out of that, perhaps. More likely you get a free Cheap Shot, which is maybe more relevant for PvP now, the Cheap Shots, seeing as Kidney Shot is now not doing the damage, like the stun isn't baked into Between the Eyes, so that's something to consider. Or just give you another ambush or whatever, or just, drop that thing from, get out of combat, drop it with stealth, which is cool. There is, of course, the downside in solo content, where if you vanish while you're fighting a mob solo, it does reset the mob. The mob will lose the target and will run back to where it came from and heal to full, like, pretty much instantly. You'll start evading attacks. So that can be a pretty big downside for solo content. But I think this one has some potential. Though it's not like Vanish. Stealth is the least important on Outlaw Rogue. It's the least important spec to get stealth on, I feel. The other rogue specs benefit a lot more from stealth than you do, so bear that in mind. Septic Shock is the conduit. Sepsis periodic damage will be increased by 50% and reduced by 10% each time it does damage. That goes up to 190% bonus damage, reducing by 10. So it's going to make the dot do a lot more. So yeah, I do think that this thing has some potential. Obviously, I will say right now, I feel like if you're playing Outlaw Rogue, like if you're super competitive, Outlaw Rogue is your spec, like for Mythic Plus. That's where it shines. Whereas, like, if we go by BFA, Assassination was much better in PvP than Outlaw was, and Outlaw was better in Dungeons than Assassination was. And BFA sub was terrible for everything. Like, historically, sub has also been very good for PvP, so I think this is excellent for PvP, for that big burst of damage, the extra vanish. I think that's very cool. You get a lot of potential kill pressure out of that. But I'm not sure if Outlaw itself is going to be amazing in PvP, and I don't know if this one is going to be as good as your other options when it comes to PvE. So that's just something to be aware of. It's certainly an interesting option, though. So that is the Night Fae. Then we have the Venthyr are next. Their signature ability is Door of Shadows. It's a 1 minute cooldown, 35-yard range. This has the 1.5 second cast time, and it will just teleport you to wherever you click, which is very cool. It's supposed to have a spell effect right there. It bugged out. Let's see if we can try that again. It's supposed to have a casting animation. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but you get the idea. We might be lagging slightly. That's okay. No, it's thoroughly bugged right now for me. Oh, well. But yeah, anyway, so it's kind of cool. So again, it's a teleport, which is nice. A big chunk of mobility. So I think this one's pretty nifty. Yeah, like I said, you already have stealth and lots of mobility as a rogue, so I don't know how important it is, but it's still pretty cool. And then your Covenant ability for the rogues is called Slaughter. You slaughter the target doing... It's essentially the same as an ambush, right? If I go into stealth, ambush, 50 energy, 1,123 physical damage, 2 combo points. Slaughter, 1,123 physical damage, 50 energy, 2 combo points. So that's the same. The difference is that it's going to give you a new lethal poison. It's called Slaughter Poison. Now, Slaughter Poison is basically deadly poison from the Assassination Rogue, mixed with a sort of variant of Wound Poison. It's going to steal 15% of the healing done to the target. That's pretty awesome, right? That's pretty sick. It has a cool animation as well. Bonk. And it's going to make my swords all like glowy and red. Like, they look pretty neat, right? It's pretty cool. It's pretty badass. But yeah, it's about that deadly poison. So deadly poison is just it's better than instant poison. It does more damage. It's going to put a dot on the target, and then it's going to proc for, I think, actually slightly less damage every time it hits than instant poison, but it does quite a bit more damage overall. And then obviously the benefit would be in PvP or against any mobs, I guess, that would heal in Mythic Plus, I suppose, is that, you know, it won't reduce healing by as much as Wound Poison. Like, it's the same amount of healing reduction, as it were, as about 2 stacks of Wound Poison, which would be 16% reduced healing. You can't get, like, the 3rd stack, but the benefit is you don't need to stack this one up. It's just as soon as you hit them, the poison goes on, and it's the full effect. And obviously, it's going to heal you for 15% of the healing they receive. So this will make you a lot tankier, certainly in Arena. You know, you're going to be keeping this poison probably on most of the enemy team most of the time. So just 15% of the healing that the enemy team is receiving is going to be healing you. That could be pretty nuts. And then obviously getting, you know, extra damage of the deadly poison effect plus, you know, reducing the healing they receive. That could be pretty good. So yeah, it's certainly interesting. It's all about this poison buff. There is a conduit for this as well, which was very, very good for Assassination, not so good for Outlaw though, where Slaughter's damage and critical strike chance will be increased by 12%. That can go up to 40% bonus, and it will double the bonuses by 100% if Slaughter Poison is active. So, when you have Slaughter Poison on, it's going to make your Vanish burst damage quite chunky. You're going to get a very, very potent Slaughter out of that. You know, it's going to do 80% more damage, and it's almost guaranteed to crit. So that's going to be a very big chunk of physical damage, which is potentially kind of interesting. So that is certainly something to consider with the Slaughter Poison as well. But yeah, I think like it's a number tuning thing, but it's certainly quite interesting. In PvE, it's not really all that amazing, I would say. In PvE, it depends how often you re-stealth. It's kind of interesting then, maybe. But it's certainly more about getting the 2 poison effects and how that really impacts PvP, in my opinion at least. Then we have the Necrolords, finally. Their signature ability is Fleshcraft, 2-minute cooldown. Channel for 4 seconds to form a shield. It lasts for 2 minutes. The shield is equal to 20% of your maximum health. Let me actually get rid of Slaughter Poison, so it's not an unfair comparison here, whatever. But yeah, so that's cool. If you channel it near corpses, you can claim their essence to grow the shields up to 50% of your maximum health. The more enemies you're around, or the stronger the enemy, the more powerful the shield. Certainly, this is quite appealing, I think, for Mythic Plus in particular. You know, let's say you're going into a difficult boss, or you're going into a difficult pull. On the previous fight, the previous pull, just channel Fleshcraft at the end of it and go into that difficult boss fight with a 50% max HP shield. That's pretty awesome. The Covenant ability is also very good right now. I expect it's going to be nerfed, but this thing is pretty disgusting. This is Serrated Bone Spike. This costs you 10 energy. It has 3 charges with a 30-second recharge and a 30-yard range. You're going to embed a bone spike in the target, doing 700 bleed damage every 2.8 seconds until they die. A permanent bleed. It will also do 700 damage and generate 1 combo point extra per active bone spike, and it also will refund your charge when the target dies or is healed to full, which is interesting. I'm not actually sure if it removes the bleed if they're healed to full. I'm actually not sure, but if I fire this off, you're going to see this thing gets nuts really fast. So the first time I fire it out, it's going to do a bit of damage, give me 1 combo point for a very cheap energy cost, and it's going to put the bleed on the target, which is nice. When I fire it at the second target, it's going to obviously put the bleed on them, but it's going to generate an extra combo point because for every bone spike I have active. So it just gave me 2 combo points there. And it did an extra chunk of damage to him. If I spend my combo points real fast, if I come onto my 3rd target, I'm going to fire it. I'm going to get the 1 combo point from casting it, and then 1 extra combo point for each of these bone spikes that's out right now. If I do the 4th target, let me just see. So our damage right now is about 14k. If I fire this off, bonk. Oh, the thing bugged out. That's unfortunate. But as you probably saw in the combat log, that just did an absolute ton of damage. That did a butt ton of damage. It's kind of insane. So this thing is like really, really overtuned right now. It does so much damage. If you're able to multi-dot with this and get the bleed up on multiple targets, whenever you cast this, it gives you a ton of combo points, and it does an absolute ton of damage as well. Even in single target, it's fine. Like the first time, in pure single target, the first time you cast it, I'm going to actually go out here because it's going to just, the dot will never go away on these mobs. You have to actually leave the room. There we go. In pure single target, like the first time you cast it, it's a 1 combo point, but every time, it's the permanent bleed though in single target. It's a permanent bleed, right? And then every time I cast it after that, it's going to give me 2 combo points, which is still pretty decent, right? I wouldn't really complain about it. It's not too bad at all. So that's cool. It should also interact with, here we go. Like, it's 2 combo points are really, really cheap, which is great. So this one is fantastic. The bleed does a lot of damage. And yeah, the more targets you add in, the better this thing gets. So this is nuts right now. Definitely looking like the best thing for Outlaw. I expect it to get tuned down because it's a bit insane. The conduit for this is called Sudden Fractures. Serrated Bone Spike's bleed has a 3% chance to deal its damage a second time. It goes up to 10% chance for the bleed to do damage a second time. So that's just a flat damage increase on the bleed, which is fine. It could add up to some good damage. There's no real interaction you have with that, but yeah, it's looking really good. So there you go. They're the Covenant choices for Outlaw Rogue. Like I said, right now, Necrolord is by far the best one. It just does an insane amount of damage, and gives you lots of combo points for very, very cheap. I think it should interact, like I said, with broadside. Ooh, let's test it. We just got broadsides. Let's go. So we should get, the bleed's still on him. We should get extra. Oh yeah, we just got 3. That's pretty insane. Against the second guy, yeah, it's pretty nuts. So loads and loads of combo points to that. I'm pretty sure that's interacting. Yeah, okay, so that's neat. So Necrolord's looking insanely good, and I think the shield is very good too, though obviously the shield's not as good in PvP. But I think the Venthyr one looks quite interesting for PvP. I'm not really seeing Venthyr for PvE. It's like, okay, stealing healing from targets is cool, but whereas there's loads of healing in PvP, there's really not that much healing from enemy mobs in PvE. So I don't know if that's going to be that good. Getting Deadly Poison is nice, but it's not that good. So Venthyr definitely seems like a purely PvP type thing. The Night Fae, again, for Outlaw Rogue, I'd say seems like mostly a PvP type thing. It does a big nuke of damage on a 1.5 minute cooldown. Obviously, it's only a 30-second cooldown if the target dies while the debuff is on them, which is fine. Mostly you're looking to actually proc the damage. So it's a 1.5 minute CD, big nuke of damage that gives you a free vanish. So that has good utility. That looks very good for PvP as well. And then you have the Kyrian. I actually like the Kyrian one quite a bit for Outlaw. Echoing Reprimand, just a big hard-hitting ability, gives you 3 combo points, and then it's going to anima charge a combo point for an extra big finisher. It's quite fun. A little bit of variety in your gameplay there. So yeah, it's a tough choice. I think right now it's like Necrolord looks great. Kyrian, maybe second place for PvE, and then Night Fae and Venthyr looking very good for PvP. That's my thoughts. But again, you guys that are Outlaw Rogue mains, you let me know exactly what sort of synergies you're seeing there, because it's possible I'm missing some. But that would be my initial thought right now with the state of Outlaw Rogue Covenant. For your legendaries as the Outlaw Rogue, there are 8 options right now. 4 of them are there for all the Rogue specs, and then 4 are only for Outlaw. Of course, at the start of Shadowlands, you'll only be able to equip one of these. Let's look at the general ones first. The first one is, excuse me, itchy nose straight away as soon as I start recording this segment. Bloody hell. First one's called the Essence of Bloodfang. Fuck me. Your combo point generators have a chance to infect the target with Bloodfang, causing about 400 bleed damage over 6 seconds, and healing the rogue for 66 every time it deals damage. Fairly bland, a bit of, passive healing and extra passive damage. I guess it might incentivize you a little bit to spread your combo point generators around. I will say that it seems that it probably has a bit of anti-synergy with between the eyes, where you want to stick on the one target. Depends whether or not Blade Flurry will actually spread the bleed. So it's kind of okay, though relatively basic. Could be kind of nice for a bit of extra damage and healing in PvP, though. Mark of the Master Assassin is next. We obviously gushed about this one in the Assassination Rogue video. While stealth is active and for 5 seconds after breaking stealth, your critical strike chances increase by 100%. I think this one is extremely good. It makes Vanish a very potent damage DPS cooldown. It makes your opener out of stealth very potent. So this is extremely strong for PvP, I think. It's extremely strong for PvE as well. Every mob packet you pull, you can come out of Vanish, like a big nuke Blade Flurry, and then like nuke the mobs. Some pretty powerful hits right there. Obviously wonderful synergy as well with bonus crit damage from Between the Eyes, and Between the Eyes doing massive damage when it crits. Wonderful synergy as well with the Night Fae Covenant. That could bring the Night Fae Covenant really to the fore with the synergy with this legendary, because that gives you a free Vanish every 1.5 minutes. So this one looks really good, I think. The next one is called Tiny Toxic Blades. Your Shiv will make your poisons and bleeds on the target spread to a nearby enemy. This seems awful for Outlaw Rogue. I really don't see the point in this one at all. And then the next one is the Umbra Hide Vest. Invigorating Shadow Dust. Vanish will reduce the remaining cooldown of your other abilities by 15 seconds. I think this one's kind of interesting. Presumably this should work on everything, so you get extra shivs out, which is cool. You know, more sprints, more grappling hooks, more blinds out, which is good. Should maybe reset the cooldown on kick, reduce the cooldown on kidney shot, lower the cooldown on roll the bones, get you back to a better roll of bones, lower the blade flurry cooldown. Lots of interesting stuff, like evasion, cloak of shadows. So I think this one could have some interesting potential, particularly from the utility side of things, if it's worth it in how much it reduces your utility cooldowns. This one could be kind of interesting. You know, that could be kind of interesting, like catch people a bit by surprise in PvP with a blind that comes out faster than they're anticipating, or a kidney shot when they don't think it should be possible for you to kidney shot because you just did one. That could be interesting. We'll have to see. For the Outlaw Rogue specific ones then, the first one is called Celerity. You have a chance while Slice and Dice is active to gain the Adrenaline Rush effect for 4 seconds. So it's quite passive, but I think that's quite a bit of fun. You know, just every now and then while you're fighting, you'll always have Slice and Dice up. So just periodically, you're just going to proc 4 seconds of more attack speed. More importantly, 4 seconds of more energy regen. So just help you spam out a bit more. I think it's kind of fun, actually. The next one is called Concealed Blunderbuss. Hilariously, this says when Saber Slash strikes an additional time. So unfortunately, this obviously won't work for you because now you work with Sinister Strike. You don't have Saber Slash now. Obviously, I think there's a typo right there. Now that you're working with Sinister Strike and not Saber Slash anymore. But it should just work with, you know, when Sinister Strike strikes an additional time, there's a 33% chance your next pistol shot will fire 3 additional times. So it doesn't work with the whatever the proc is called. It's not going to make, you know, all of those pistol shots aren't going to do double damage. It's just going to fire off that initial pistol shot, which will be buffed up by the Sinister Strike. But then you're going to get you'll get 3 additional just minor pistol shots. So that's 3 additional hits for 400 damage. And it will give you 3 additional combo points. Again, I think this one is quite fun. It's definitely quite fun for a bunch of combo point generation. Obviously, with broadsides, it's going to totally overcap. But it could still be kind of interesting. You may just overcap combo points a lot with this one, but I think it's still, nonetheless, a fun little proc and quite cool. Let's see if we can actually get it to trigger. Let's see if we can actually get a trigger. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Lots and lots of combo points. Cool. This is actually perfect. Oh, it didn't trigger. Damn it. Okay, 33% chance. You hate to see it, ladies and gents. You hate to see it. But yeah. So, I mean, if it triggers right there and, like, you get your pistol shot proc, you know, right when you're hitting 5 combo points and you can fire off your, like, right here, this could be perfect. Nah, it didn't proc. So it's quite random, but I think it's still kind of fun when it goes off, even if it is random. The next one, then, is Returning. Oh, my lord, from when I played Rogue back in Warlords of Draenor, and I main sub and I main Combat Rogue. This is your main passive from Combat Rogue. Guile Charm, right? So Bandit's Guile is back, guys. Take advantage of the natural ebb and flow of combat, causing your Sinister Strike to gradually increase your damage dealt by up to 30%. The maximum effect will last until cancelled before fading beginning. I think it lasts like 12 or 15 seconds or something. Let's go. So this is an interesting combo right now. It's every time Sinister Strike hits, which obviously works well with Weapon Master, where your Sinister Strike can hit more times. But you'll see, I'm just going to spam. I'll put on Slice and Dice for more energy. But here we go. Shallow Insight, damage dealt increased by 15%. Now we're up to Moderate Insight, 20%. Okay, I'm being very lazy and just spamming. And here we go. 15 seconds of Deep Insight, 30% increased damage dealt. So big burst damage in this window. This, I think, is actually somewhat interesting because you could, in PvP specifically, you could delay between the eyes for that deep insight, 30% damage bonus. And then you could delay Dreadblades for that as well. And you could then potentially get some really good burst damage out. Or Killing Spree, which was a DPS loss for most of BFA. You actually lost DPS by pressing Killing Spree. Maybe Killing Spree could come back and be relatively good with this Guile Charm, perhaps. I think in PvE, it's a little bit more awkward. It's still very fun as a throwback and nostalgic thing. But in PvE, because as the Outlaw Rogue, you spam a lot. Like, that's just how Restless Blades work. That's how True Bearing works. All of your cooldowns get reduced cooldowns. So, for example, if I leave Adrenaline Rush on cooldown, if I don't press that button for 10 seconds, like delaying it until I get my Deep Insight, not only have I lost 10 seconds of it sitting unused like any other spec would, but I'm also losing probably at least 10 seconds of cooldown reduction from Restless Blades, even more with True Bearing. So that becomes very awkward, I think, to actually sync things up with this in PvE. I think it's very difficult. I think it's likely a DPS loss. You just probably mostly let this one go. So I was running this in the dungeon and stuff, and I was trying to like do single target Blade Flurry synced up with Deep Insight, and maybe like delay Blade Rush slightly, that sort of thing, but I don't know if that actually makes sense. It might actually just be bad. I'm not sure. Potentially you could, again, like, I think the more interesting thing is in PvP, this could be really fun. Like, it's a fun passive in PvE. It's kind of fun. But more so for PvP, I think potentially could be very strong. 30% more damage. If you sync that up with, like, the Night Fae thing, if you sync that up with, although I guess he'd be giving up Mark of the Master Assassin. So I don't know if it'd be worth it. But you could potentially sync it up with like Dread Blades and Between the Eyes and that sort of stuff and get some nice burst damage out, which is cool. But I like it being back, even as just a pure nostalgia thing. I think that's really fun to have Bandit Skull come back. And yeah, we'll see what the gameplay ends up being. Then finally we have Greenskin's Wickers. Between the Eyes has a 20% chance per combo point to increase the damage of your next pistol shot by 200%. So it's going to make your pistol shot hit very, very hard. So let's roll the bones. Ooh, we got the good one there. My. So here we go. Bam. Here we go. We got our proc. Boom. We just crit for 4,000 damage right there with our pistol shot. That's pretty monstrous right there. So for example, our Between the Eyes only hit. It did 3,000. Oh no, it did crit. Between the Eyes crit for 3,000. You can see the pistol shot actually crit for more than that, 4,000. So obviously it's a chance-based effect, right? Well, actually it's not chance-based. It's guaranteed burst of damage. Pretty fantastic. So yeah, if that pistol shot crits like it did there, it's going to do a monstrous amount of damage. Obviously Between the Eyes, you're doing more damage with your crits. If this crits, it's a whole ton. You obviously want to sync that up. I'm pretty almost certain with the Sinister Strike proc where your pistol shot does double damage, and that pistol shot's going to do lots of damage. So I think that one is quite fun as well. So yeah, I'm pretty fond of the Outlaw Rogue Legendaries overall. I think they're pretty decent. Like they're all somewhat noticeable effects on your gameplay. Like you'll notice this proc, you'll notice this proc. We'll have to see how the tuning ends up. Like obviously Mark of the Master Assassin might be insane. Like the Shiv one is really boring. But yeah, you've got some decent options there. I think it's a respectable repertoire of legendaries. And then the final section of added power here for the Outlaw Rogue specifically in the Shadowlands are the Conduits. These are going to slot into your Soulbind tree. So you'll see an example in the background of your Soulbind tree, what it might look like, and the sort of path you could take through that tree. You'll unlock slots along the way depending on the path you take. Endurance slots are going to boost survivability, finesse are going to boost utility, and potency will boost your damage. Let's look at the endurance conduits first. The first option is Cloaked in Shadows. Entering stealth cloaks you in shadows, absorbing 10% of your max health and damage, reduced by 2% each second outside of stealth. That goes up to a 24% HP shield. That's really nice. That makes Vanish very powerful as a defensive cooldown. Obviously, it's going to make your opener in PvP. You're going to open with a big shield. Between every mob pack, essentially in PvE and Mythic Plus, most of the time, you're going to be able to, again, start off the next mob pack with stealth on. I think that's pretty awesome. So this one is, I think, very strong. Nimble Fingers is next. The energy cost of Feint and Crimson Vial are reduced by 5. That goes up to 20. Reduction, making Crimson Vial free, making Feint only cost 15 energy. I think this one's a bit underwhelming. Like, Feint is very situational. and Crimson Vial, like Crimson Vial being 30-second cooldown, Faint being 15, I think it's just fine. Like, you're not really that starved for energy as an Outlaw Rogue. I think you can plan to have the energy for those things just fine without having to spend a Conduit slot on this. And then, again, the reason I kind of diss on that second one is that this third one here is also very good, much like the first one. Recuperator, Slice and Dice heals you for up to 18% of your max health over 36 seconds. This should have ranks in it, so I'm not actually sure what the ranks are supposed to be, guys. So yeah, I don't know if that's the basic rank. I don't know if that's the max rank. I'm not sure. I suspect it might even be the basic rank, and that this actually gets much stronger than that. But nonetheless, this should be, I think, a very, very good endurance conduit. For all sorts of content, that's just going to be a lot of self-healing coming on through. Just passively, always on. You don't have to do anything. You always have Slice and Dice on. You're always going to be regenning health. I think that's going to add up to a lot of self-survivability in Arena, in PvP. It's going to be very good. I think in Mythic Plus, again, that's just a lot of constant self-healing. I think it's going to be quite strong. This one looks excellent. For your Finesse Conduits, then, there are 4. Fade to Nothing is first. Gaining Stealth, Vanish, or Shroud of Concealment increases move speed by 10% for 3 seconds. That goes up to 25%. So that's kind of fine. I'm not too excited about that one, though. It's okay. Prepared for All is next. Dodging attacks reduces the cooldown of evasion by 1 second, and successful interrupts with kick reduce the cooldown of Cloak of Shadows by, presumably, by 1 second as well. Maybe less, maybe 2 seconds. I'm not sure. And that will scale up for like up to 4 seconds cooldown reduction on evasion, and 4 to 8 seconds maybe on Cloak of Shadows. So I think this one is fairly solid as well. It's fairly solid. Certainly in PvP, like if you are going to be the focused target, if you suspect that's going to be the case, this could be very, very good. You know, Prepared for All, it works for both things, really. You're going to be using kick on cooldown, or close to on cooldown, quite often in PvP and in Mythic Plus. So you're going to get a lot more Cloak of Shadows out, which is quite nice. Having that up more frequently, what's not to love? And then obviously dodging with evasion, that's a bit more situational. You kind of need to be being focused by a melee damage dealer with evasion on you in PvP. So I don't know if that one's going to be so good. But very good for solo content, I guess. But I think this one is nifty enough, not too shabby. Quick Decisions, then, is your third option for Outlaw. It's going to lower the cooldown of Grappling Hook and increase its maximum range by 12%. That goes up to 40%. So I think this one is, again, quite nice for PvP, right? Because you're going to be able to really get around the place quite a lot with that Grappling Hook. So that could be kind of nifty if you are in a comp that is very good at kiting. This could help you get a lot of pressure, or help you make some meaner target swaps in PvP that might be a bit unexpected. So that could have some niche uses for sure. And then finally, Rushed Setup. The energy costs of Kidney Shot, Cheap Shot, Sap, and Distract are reduced by 10%. That goes up to 45% reduced energy cost. Again, as the Outlaw Rogue, I'm not sure that you're all that energy starved. I would say that it could be kind of good, though, for PvP. Again, in Arena, let's say you're going to do something like, you know, Vanish, Sap, Sap the healer, and then come out like Cheap Shot into a Kidney Shot on the kill target, something like that. That, I guess, will add up to quite a lot of energy spent when you are trying to nuke somebody down. So getting more energy during those sort of like kill windows, it could be kind of good in that sort of sense. So again, you guys that are experts in PvP can let me know if that one will actually translate to something good. I sense that perhaps it could. It might just like give you that little extra edge of energy to spend on damage spells instead of just the crowd control to get a kill. So potentially okay. For your potency conduits, the ones though that straight up buff your damage. First up, we have Ambidexterity. Main Gosh has an additional 10% chance to strike while Blade Flurry is active. That goes up to 24%. So, I mean, this really cements Blade Flurry as something that you're going to press in single target if you run this, obviously. More Main Gosh is more damage, or Main Gauch, I don't know how to say that. More damage, more energy. So that's pretty nice. More damage through your Blade Flurry, that's quite nice. So I think this one's fine. A bit more energy, it's cool, not too bad. Count the Odds is next. Ambush, Slaughter, and Dispatch have a 7% chance to grant you a Roll the Bones combat enhancement buff you do not already have for 5 seconds. Duration and chance tripled while stealthed. That goes up to a 21% chance. So, I mean, like, it's not bad. It's only 5 seconds. Like, this is the thing. We'll have to see. I'd really have to play with this one. It sounds fun. My concern would be that, okay, like, whatever, I do a Dispatch, and I get, you know, Ruthless Precision for 5 seconds, which is going to, you know, increase the crit chance of Between the Eyes by 60%. I mean, Between the Eyes might not be off cooldown in the next 5 seconds. If it is, it's wonderful. If it's not, then it's not so good. So we'll have to see. I feel like, you know, the chance seems so low that I really don't think you can plan around this that much. It seems like way too much work to have to plan around every single dispatch. Be like, okay, am I ready to react to any of these particular buffs? I think it's just something that you happen to get, and it happens to give you a bit of benefit. I'm not too sold on it. I think that it's a bit too random, to be honest. But we got one that's worse next, which is Sleight of Hand. Roll the Bones has a 7% chance of instantly resetting its cooldown. That goes up to a 21% chance. So that's right. That is right, guys. When you roll the Bones, you might get a good buff, but you might get a terrible buff. And if you do get a terrible buff, then there is a 1 in 5 chance that you can take another chance. A 1 in 5 chance off of your chance to have another chance to get something good, or maybe get something bad. And of course then, 4 out of 5 times when you get that bad buff, you won't reset the cooldown and roll the bones, and you'll just be sad. So I think this is horrible. I absolutely hate this. It's so bad. Oh, why is this a thing? Oh my god, I absolutely hate. Like, I like the change. Like, I don't like roll the bones, but I like what they did by making it just have a cooldown and just being like, you know what, just deal with it. You get a good buff, you're happy. You get a bad buff, just deal with it. And we're always hoping that they'll go back and rebalance the buffs so that they're all pretty decent, like they're all a bit more equal. But I like that you just have to deal with it. The Sleight of Hand is terrible, though. It just adds even more randomness in there. Like, we don't want that. We don't want re-rolling. We don't want it. We don't want more randomness. It's already too random. Please, please no. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't see this one being good, first of all. Well, I don't know. Maybe it will be good, because some of the buffs are like, bloody hell. Like, the new Grand Melee is absolutely terrible compared to getting, like, Ruthless Precision or Broadside or something good. So maybe this one could end up being good, which would be awful, because it's going to be awful. This is terrible. It's everything bad about Roll the Bones in minor Conduit form. So, rant over. Sorry, guys. The final Conduit is Triple Threat. Sinister Strike has a 20% chance to strike with both weapons after it strikes an additional time. That goes up to 35%. So, yeah, I think that's kind of fun. You know, whenever your Sinister Strike strikes again, it's going to do a bit more damage. That's kind of cool. It ups the value of the Skull and Crossbones, striking additional time. I guess that probably works with Weapon Master as well. I don't know. Just seems like a bit more damage. It's going to proc more energy regen as well with combat potency, which is cool. It'll proc main gouge probably as well. So it's decent enough. So there you are. An interesting set of conduits for the Outlaw Rogue, to say the least. And there you go, guys. That was our look at all of the different parts of the Outlaw Rogue on the Shadowlands beta. So how's the spec looking? Is it any fun? Is it any good? Well, needless to say, I actually think I forgot to talk about Shroud of Concealment when I did the rotation, which is quite the omission. But Shroud of Concealment, obviously, you can activate it to extend stealth to your entire group. Amazing for Mythic Plus. I certainly think that Outlaw Rogue is probably going to still be an absolute top-tier class, top-tier spec in Mythic Plus. It's bringing all those same strengths over, wonderful utility, and very consistent damage. The big elephant in the room, of course, is Roll the Bones. Like I said, I appreciate the change that they made to Roll the Bones. I think it's a step in the right direction. Making Roll the Bones just a straight-up cooldown, and you just have to deal with the cooldown. I'm very upset that they added the Conduit that gives you a chance to be able to roll the bones again for another chance to get a good buff. I think that's awful. That's absolutely terrible. I do not want to go back at all to the re-rolling meta of BFA. Like, that's just so unfun to not be able to do damage abilities, but just to spend all your time re-rolling the goddamn bones. The bigger issue as well with Roll the Bones, I sat down and I thought about this, right? I hadn't really realized this until I was making this video, but genuinely, I don't even think you change your rotation at all based off these buffs. That's the thing. Like, that should be the theory, right, of Roll the Bones, is you get a random buff that's going to change your rotation. But I really don't think it does. I really don't think it does. It's like, you're still going to maintain Slice and Dice. You're still going to use Between the Eyes on cooldown. And you're just going to spam Sinister Strike when you need combo points. Do Pistol Shot when you get the proc. And then you're going to Dispatch on 4 to 5 combo points. Like, you know, it doesn't really change. It doesn't really change. Like, no matter which buff you get from Roll the Bones, you're still going to do that exact same priority list of things. It's just, it's going to happen a bit faster. Or, you know, yeah, like, whatever. With Broadside, with more combo points from each ability, you're going to press that Dispatch button a bit more frequently. That's fine. With Buried Treasure, more energy regen, you're going to you know, mash all of those buttons a bit more frequently. That's fine. Like with Ruthless Precision, with more crits, like you're gonna see bigger numbers. Cool. You know what I mean? Like, but your gameplay doesn't really change all that much, which I think is a problem for the Outlaw Rogue. I really do, because I think that the purpose of Roll the Bones is supposed to spice up the rotation, because without it spicing up the rotation for Outlaw Rogue is actually rather dull. It's actually rather boring. Yeah, I find the spec to be a little bit boring. It's very spammy. Like, you just sort of spam your heart out. And I like the cooldown reduction aspect of it. I think that's unique, and that's pretty neat. Where every time you do a finisher, based off the combo points you spend, it knocks a few seconds off your major cooldowns. That's a lot of fun. I love that mechanic. That's been the mechanic for Outlaw for combat before that. That was awesome. But yeah, the core rotate is just spam Sinister Strike and spam Dispatch, and nah, it's rather dull. I really dislike Blade Flurry as well. I really dislike it. That's become very clear to me. It's very interesting to hit on the Rogue spec, to hit on Outlaw after looking at the other specs here in this series. I think that Fury Warrior has this sort of mechanic, but it's way better on Fury Warrior, where Whirlwind makes their attacks cleave onto 4 additional targets, but Whirlwind only affects their next 2 attacks, and that actually slots in wonderfully. It's the best thing about Fury is their AoE rotation, because you're weaving these Whirlwinds in to the rest of your rotation, which is basically centered around these very short cooldowns that you really want to be using on cooldown. So it actually ends up being quite engaging gameplay in AoE. Marksmanship Hunter does a similar thing, with multi-shot and triggering trick shots. That's not as fun, but it's okay-ish. This one is definitely the worst. The problem I have with Blade Flurry is just there's so little gameplay to it. I really feel like, for the most part, it's just, you know, in AoE, it's you just press the button. It's like, hello game, I have correctly identified that I am fighting, you know, more than one target. I have pressed the AoE button. Recognize me, game, recognize me. Damage meters, I want to see you go up. I have pressed the AoE, but like, it's pretty bad. I mean, I've got pretty low standards. I played Havoc Demon Hunter. That was my main in 8.3. But bloody, at least we have to aim the I-beam. You know, at least we have to aim it. This, you just press the... I don't like it. So, yeah, don't like that. But yeah, that's generally my thought on Outlaw Rogue. I think it is still going to be a strong spec in Mythic Plus. It still looks to be very strong. And I do like some of the ideas in the spec, and I love the speed of it, like the speed of your attacks. I love the Adrenaline Rush speeding you up even more. I like Slice and Dice coming back. Yeah, like I dig that stuff, but I just find the core gameplay to be quite dull. And Roll the Bones, I really hate the randomness, and I really don't think that the gameplay effects add up to anything particularly tangible that makes it worthwhile to have that randomness. It doesn't make the gameplay interesting enough to bother. So yeah, for me, unfortunately, this is my least favorite Rogue spec by a significant chunk, actually, I would say. It's okay. I probably play it a little bit in Mythic Plus now and then, but honestly, even if it was like, if we consider BFA balance, where Outlaw is just straight up better than the other Rogue specs, you know, I'd definitely be in the camp of being like, yo, you know, in BFA, I'd be the Assassin Rogue, who's like, listen, I main Assassin Rogue, I love it. It might not be quite as good as Outlaw, and like, we don't bring the gouge, you know, we have to vanish for DPS instead of vanish for utility, and the damage is less consistent, and like our cooldown Vendetta single target, and blah blah blah. But I'd still rather play it just for more fun than play Outlaw, even if it's better. That's kind of a damning condemnation, isn't it? It's a bit damning. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out. You know, the confidence, a little bit questionable. A bit too PvE PvP split, I think. Legendaries actually pretty decent. Yeah, we'll see. Guys, that's my thoughts on the Outlaw Rogue. I'll see you next time for our final deep dive, which is going to look at the reworked Sub Rogue. I'll see you all then. Bye-bye.